So we pick out from our examples which template we want to use. I'm going to be using this one. The first thing you do is you flip it over to the other side and you just cover the back with charcoal. And I recommend doing the charcoal going like in both directions at a minimum. And I have a thicker piece of charcoal here. Some of you might have got the thinner vine charcoal. And so one of the reasons why I recommended that you get vine charcoal is because with SUMI-E, the ink that we use is made from soot. And the vine charcoal is charred vines, which compatible with the soot that's in a good liquid ink or an ink stick. And the ink we're going to be using today is going to be a thickened ink, which I've already gone ahead and poured some of the fine Japanese ink that we use from Oriental Art Supply into a dish, as well as some thick blue ink so I can compare them. If you used your ink stick, you would have wanted to do the same thing. Mix it up ahead of time and let it dry out. So you're letting it dry out so it's got more of the soot to water in the blend. And the other thing that they've done in mixing the ink is they've mixed it with some binders like animal glue and also hopefully some herbs to make it smell nice. So a good quality inkstone or ink should smell nice. If it doesn't, mainly you want to cover the back of it. I might just tap off any of the excess into, like another sheet of paper and tape it down on the hot press watercolor paper. And I'm the lower right hand corner of the pad and I tape it down and then I put registration marks so that if I ever move this drawing from this pad, I can always line it up again. And then what I want to do, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start from the left side and go to the right, but I'm also choosing to start with the eye of the rabbit and the nose, and then I check to make sure that it came through on the other side. And then I can continue to trace. So that is a main way of tracing and preparing for Tarashikomi. Alright, so now I have sketched out the rabbit and I can make a decision whether or not I want to do the enso. Now, I actually, when I did this enso originally, I did it by putting a circular dish on the paper, and then I traced it. And so I just traced it here, so now the charcoal is pressed in. So one of the things you might see happening is you might be getting a lot of charcoal in areas that you don't want it, and so you can just take your brush, you can just kind of blow it off or dust it off, so that's one way to do it. I know that there's some artists that have specific brushes for that, like rooster feathers are really nice for that. Another main tool for doing this is a technique you like, you might want to, or you might have some in your art studio already, and this is a rubber gum eraser. And if you press that, it just lifts right into the rubber gum eraser, and then you just knead it and you can go ahead and lift it up. I tend to not like to do this too much because it's gummy and it'll leave a little bit of residue on the paper. It might be better just to brush it off. Or you know, not to have so much charcoal. Just put charcoal just where you need it on the back of your template. Now these you can choose to either do freestyle, or if you want, you know, to trace, you know, you can go ahead and trace them. And so that's going to be artist's choice. All right, so I'm going to move this down, you know, and cover the back of the charcoal so it doesn't, you know, make a mess of your work area. Or if you have any tracing paper or vellum, that's really good. I like to use that. Sometimes I even make envelopes out of it just to keep my artwork in. Did you get a picture of it? I'll usually put this over a finished painting just to protect it from dust and debris. I usually use vellum, to tell you the truth, not tracing paper. So now I'm just going to protect that drawing by doing that. I'm going to go ahead and set up my brushes. I've got my Orchid bamboo, and I'm just going to get my Orchid bamboo all wet and then set that aside. And then what we're going to do with our flow brush is get it ready like we did for line drawing, which is you get all the hairs wet. You get it wet so that it just releases water, because it can't hold any more water in the brush. So you see it's got like that bead of water at the tip. And then you knock that off, and then you just take a paper towel and then dry off towards the ferrule, that's where the hairs meet the brush holder. And then what you want to do is just get a little bit of this ink. So I've let this ink kind of sit here and puddle, but it's thick now. So I just want to get the very, very tip of the brush with the ink. Now I'm going to take my Orchid bamboo. I'll go ahead and do, let's do the rabbit ear. And so I think that would probably be a good place to start. So I'm going to just set this up here next to me so I can kind of see where I want to do it. And then I just go and I'm going to fill in that rabbit ear with water. So I just see the line. This is my Orchid bamboo right now. So I'm just painting a puddle of water. This is the watercolor paper. So I took the stencil off. And now I've just got the charcoal drawing on here. What I just did is I took my stencil off.
Yeah.
See, like that? But then I covered it with this paper because I wanted to, so that the charcoal wouldn't get all over the place. So now I've got my ear, that's where it's just got a puddle of water. This line here on the inner side, that's like got a white outline to it, I just put that inner part with water. So now I want you to see what's going to happen when I set up the flow brush with the ink. So now what I'll do is I'm just going to tap it right where the water is, right? And I just tap, tap, tap. Well, I kind of waited a little bit too long because it's a little dry now. But here, I just tap, tap. Did you see how it just jumped? When I tap in there? Can you see that? Let me show overhead. So I'm just very, very tiny little taps on the edge. And I'm going to go pick up a little bit more ink. And I would just go all around the edge of that puddle with just a little bit of ink. And that's what we call like this dropping in. Let me zoom this in too so you can see it. I just wanted to get up really close so you could see it. But can you see this okay? So it's very, very just slow and methodical, where you just are dropping this ink in just a little bit at a time. So this could be a nice break from doing the SUMI-E painting, you know, where you've got the composition, and now you just very, very slowly are adding the ink to it. So this is much more like watercolor. Ideal Japanese paper for this is torinoko. Torinoko, tori means bird, and noko is eggshell. So torinoko is a description of a type of paper that is like, it's delicate and strong like an eggshell, and it's really a beautiful surface for doing this technique. Torinoko. So Hiromi Arts sells it. Sometimes Yasutomo will do shikishi board, you know, that's made with torinoko. So I'm just very, very, very softly while we're talking here. Depending on how dark you want to make that ear, you know, that's artist choice. However, please note that it's, you know, this down here is going to be typically where the shadow is going to be the darkest. Once you've done one area, you don't want to do the adjacent area. It might run into one another. But if you're going to do the moon Tarashikomi technique, you might want to do it before you do the grass, so that way you can get like the full moon in there. But what I did in this one is I did the grass first and then did the moon second. So this time I want to try it doing the moon first and then the grass. So I am just going to go ahead and paint. And because of this, you know, this technique, some areas can be just left undone. It's not going to read like, you know, the same as the painting because it's a different technique. So torinoko you can get at Talus and Hiromi Art. All right, so now I've managed to get this whole moon now has like a bead of water through it, and some areas it's sinking in a little bit quicker than others. So I want to go pretty quickly and start to drop this in. So when I go here, if I push it into the water, it's going to start to swirl. And at this point, I can either blow it. So, and that's a nice way to do it. Just and then I can get this really nice swirling. You can also guide it with the brush, you know, where you can just go in different techniques, but you kind of want to pick which way you're going to do it and stick with it. So that's one way. Now, if I tip it to let it run, I have to really be careful because it could just shoot right out. I mean, I've got kind of like a barrier with the charcoal, you know. So I really have to pay attention when I do this so I don't have a jarred movement where it's going to go and shoot off and run out of there. So now at this point, that's kind of nice. You know, I might just want to leave it just like that. See if I like that effect when it dries. So I'm leaving it a little bit more to chance.